So welcome back to another episode of Am I the Antagonist? And am I the antagonist for suing my neighbor after she sprayed weedicide on my lawn? So make sure you subscribe down below with the notifications on so twice a day DecoyNoise can start fast forwarding your boring things with more live Reddit commentary just like this. But let's go ahead and hear OP out right now. So OP writes, caught my neighbor spraying weedicide on my lawn in my fenced-in backyard because she said she was sick of all the weeds and thought she was doing me a solid. But 1, I like dandelions, they're good for the bees, and 2, I have pet rabbits, dogs, cats, and a tortoise I like to roam the yard, and all of them eat or at least nibble and lick the grass, so it's literally poisoning my pets. So anyways, I kick her the F out and take all my pets inside. Now 2 of my rabbits are dead and another is in critical condition. I'll never be able to let my pets outside again to eat the grass because weedicide takes forever to go away because it can sit in the soil for who knows how long, and I'm worried that the dogs and cats might end up having a reaction too since they also nibble at the grass. Call me overprotective or overcautious, I don't care. I love my animals. So I'm suing her for damage to my property because it's now unusable for my animals, veterinary bills, and emotional damage due to the deaths of my 2 rabbits. I'm also trying to get the cops to pursue a case of animal abuse or at minimum criminal damage because she did basically poison my animals, but I doubt anything will come from it because I have to prove ill intent, but they are pursuing her for criminal trespass. She's a Karen. I think she deserves it for thinking she had any right to be on my property at all, and especially because it's killed my pets, and now I don't know what to do about my lawn because I'm not risking other animals' life by letting them out, at least unsupervised for at least a year. However, my parents and my girlfriend think I'm being unnecessarily cruel because it was an accident, and she thought she was just being a good neighbor, and I'm making it out to be a bigger deal than it is, and you should just ask her to pay my vet bills. So I also edited in saying more information. She asked me about the weeds before. She said, I don't remember verbatim what it was, but basically the conversation was along the lines of her saying, hey, I see that you have a lot of dandelions / weeds. Have you noticed that too? Me? Yep, I enjoy the look of a natural lawn. Her, something about my new car, blah, blah, blah. So the end. Since she has a kid that always asked to come over and play with my rabbits, I assume they knew that they ate them. If she was looking over my fence that often, she'd notice the dandelions were only ever flowering in 1/4 of the lawn at a time. Because my rabbits got cycled in a way, most of the lawn was mostly weed-free, while the part they couldn't get to would be sprouting. Edit again. Thanks for the messages, guys. I'm taking your advice and getting a security camera and a padlock for the fence. Also, I'm in fact getting a necropsy done. I'm guessing that's for the lawn. And edit. I have talked to her, told her that my rabbits died after the fact, and they're standing in their pen. When they're standing in their pen, probably saying. She said it's weedicide, not pesticide. They were probably just sick. And another edit. This is blowing up too much, so I gotta walk away. Sorry if I didn't answer your question, but my rabbits were actually outside when she did this, and they were staying in their pen. I can't prove it, but I'm sure they got a direct spray. Which is the idea that maybe not, but like they're just asking, am I the antagonist? So we're gonna go ahead and take this to Decoy Court, where I'm gonna give you my knee-jerk reaction. We'll also go over those top comments, some controversial comments. I'll read your comments down below. We'll do that Decoy Deliberation where we figure out who the true antagonist is, and then we'll just do the theoretical what the punishment should be, where people can kind of earn their Decoy coin by saying what an appropriate punishment would be for spraying the weedicide over there. But let's go ahead and get back to the story right now. So my Decoy Court reaction is, I'll never understand like why the neighbor thinks that they know how to take care of your lawn better than you do. Like I'll never know, but actually I do, because you know what? I always know that people say, well, I could do this better. That should be done different. Like when I worked at a burger shop when I was a kid, the idea that everybody would come through like, after the long line and be like, you know what? Maybe you guys should keep some burgers just set up to hand out and be like more efficient and everything. And I'm like, this is how you should do the job. This is how you can make it better. And I'm like, no, we make the burgers fresh. That's why you come here. You don't go to our competitors. But you know what? You just don't realize it. And even with the podcast here, it's like, you know, people complain, hey, you talk too much, or don't be afraid to curse, or why are you even showing me your face? And it's like, regardless of my reasoning, the burger shop reasoning, or OP talking about their lawn, they should never have to explain themselves for why they do the things that they do. It's like, do you know who has the time in their day to sit back and, you know, stew about what your backyard looks like? Losers do. It's like, I doubt Christopher Nolan or Chris Pine or Christine Yamaguchi, I don't know, but I doubt. Okay, so I just doubt anybody that has a lot of amazing things going on in their life have time to sit there and get mad that you're using St. Augustine grass instead of Bermuda grass. why do you spend your time doing that? It's like, now I know that I turn off a lot of people when I make statements like, hey, this person's a loser, or that's 100% wrong, and people like to unsubscribe because I say something that's incorrect in their opinion. But you know what? It's like, not everybody will agree with you, and that's okay. We should be able to disagree about comments or in real life and think, okay, cool, I still enjoy your company even though I think you're wrong. It's like, you know, if you don't think I'm right in calling this person a loser for looking at their grass, correct me in the comment section. You know, give me sound reasoning as to why I'm wrong, and I'll admit I'm wrong. It's like, you know why I can admit I'm wrong? It's because I'm not a loser. Like, I can handle being wrong and just move on something. It's like, this time next year I probably won't agree with what I'm saying right now, so it doesn't matter. It's okay to make a bold statement like that. But I'm going off on a weird tangent right now, so let's just go ahead and get back to the story, which is, OP, you're not the antagonist. Like, the neighbor doesn't seem to want to take responsibility for their misguided actions, and they should be punished for it. They hurt your animals. The rabbits weren't sick before. It's like, no, you should push this to the fullest extent of the law. She's lucky she didn't live next to like the John Wick of rabbits and sprayed weed killer on their dog cat thing. No, dog rabbit, whatever. Okay, but I mean, like I say, take a brief break, pause the video, and let me know. Earn yourself that Decoy coin for the DecoyNoise.com website. I promise it'll be worth your time at some point in time, but just I haven't figured it out now. But after you put your comment, let's go ahead and read the top comment right now, which is, they'll lock the thread because everybody's breaking the rules. So let's go ahead and read the next reply, which is, not the antagonist. Even without all your reasoning, it's illegal for her to do that, period. I'm sorry that it did in fact result in the damages. Hopefully you will get compensated for it. Good luck. You're totally justified in suing her. Which is pretty standard. I don't know why this is bad. And the next reply to that was, she practically murdered his pets. She has to be stupid if she didn't know how harmful that stuff is. Not the antagonist. Literally the first thing I thought of, he should sue, so I was glad to read that he did. I really hope you win your case, OP. I know how hard it is to lose a pet, especially one you've had for a long time. And especially the one that like dies a untimely death, like, you know, sad to say, don't tell him, but if Cheddar ever passes away, I hope it's when he's 25 years old and he's just all like, he's seen it all, done it all, and he's just ready to take that long nap, you know what I mean? But if you lose Cheddar at like 10 years old, that'd be a tragedy. So it's like the idea that he had some pretty cool rabbits, he was taking care of them, they're giving him joy, he's rotating him around the yard, giving them the best life, and some lady sprays something because she knows better than him. I know how to do your job better than you, so now your rabbits die. That's gotta be the worst one right there. But like I said, this one just becoming a big tangent, so let's go ahead and read the next top reply. Is, not the antagonist. My neighbor did this last year and got reported to the homeowners association because the yard that she sprayed under the cover of darkness, so she knew it was wrong. Belongs to the family with very young children. I'm sorry about your rabbits, and you need to know it's not your fault and you're a good owner. Which I doubt that OP is like questioning how good of an owner they are, but just the idea that, you know, send your what is it, thoughts and prayers, love and care over the internet, like, you know, online hug, like that's a good sentiment. But let's go ahead and reply to the next. The next reply was, how do people internally justify this to themselves? No matter what their yard looked like, I wouldn't dream of saying boo, let alone doing something. Which is true. And the reply was, they don't want dandelions because they're impossible to get rid of once started and the seeds blow everywhere, and those people believe the whole world should accommodate them. They are usually the same antagonists that ask you not to park in the street in front of their house because they want their guests to have a place to park. So, okay, so it started out strong and then got into the weird stuff, because that's something that I do want to know. Something that you typically only see in the controversial comments where everybody piles on and says negative things about, you know, the neighbor, but then somebody else says, hey, look, there's a reason why they would want to go over there and spray the dandelion things, because if there's dandelions and they're little, what is it, pollen? I don't know what it is. If the pollen just gets in your yard, you're going to have a crazy amount of dandelions. So maybe they looked over there and be like, hey, look, I've been spending, you know, 10 years getting rid of the dandelions in my yard. I finally got it exactly how my grandma had her yard. So whenever I, you know, crack open a morning beer, when I sit in my lawn chair and I look behind my house, I see perfectly clean garden, just like grandma wanted. And all of a sudden this guy moves in and has all these dandelions blown over there. Now, obviously I'm making up an extreme story, but just the idea that, you know, I always want to see the other side of the argument, which could have been that. Maybe they just have poor communication skills, but it doesn't seem like... It seemed like the neighbor had the opportunity to share that information with them, but yeah, that wasn't the reality. But let's go ahead and read the next top reply, which is, not the antagonist. Don't trespass. Don't mess with other people's property. If you want to do something nice, ask for permission. I don't know if removing your top layer and then putting turf down would make it safe for pets again, but she should pay for that. And that's the idea, is that would, like, you know, putting down turf would be nice and good for the environment as far as like water use, but the idea that the cat, the dog, the rabbits, they all enjoyed it. That was part of, like, you know, the deal, is having a good, you know, miscellaneous yard that had like different stuff for the rabbits and the dog to eat and everything. So, you know, the neighbor messes up, so I need to have turf instead of grass. Like, that should never be the thing. That's your house, that's your property. I don't understand why anybody would think that. Well, actually, I do. I keep on contradicting myself. I know why she would think that that's okay, because she's the antagonist and she just thinks that I can do this better than you. I know better than you. But let's go ahead and read that OP came back and replied saying, turf would be toxic to my buns and tortoise if they ingested it. Bunnies and tortoise, but it would help the dogs and the cats to be able to go out again. As far as removing the top layer, I haven't thought of that, and honestly I have zero clue, but now we'll look into that. And that's the idea, is that's a lot of work. Like, we're leaving the top layer of your grass to input another grass. I know, like, a small cube of grass is insanely expensive. You have no idea how much. It's just surprisingly expensive just to start over, as opposed to like getting new soil and seeding it and all that other stuff. So I mean, no, I don't think that OP needs to go out of his way in a massive way because the neighbor messed up. But like I said, top comments kind of gave us some good perspective, including the other thing as to why dandelions are a nuisance and maybe some rational reasoning why she went over there to destroy his grass. But just the idea that controversial comments are always going to give us more perspective or just more entertainment. So let's go ahead and see, why was this thread locked? And the top controversial comment, which is, you should seek remediation for the lawn, possibly new sod. What she did was wrong, and while the consequences may have been unintended, her behavior caused a lot of damage and loss. Your response is harsh, but I'd say not the antagonist, which is, that's not a controversial reply to me, just the idea that the response is harsh and all that stuff. It's like, you know, a lot of the time we always want to see, like, you want to prove intent, like, oh yeah, well, did she mean to hurt your bunnies? Well, if she didn't mean to do it, then we can't, like, you know, what his mom and his girlfriend are saying, like, well, she didn't mean to, so it was an accident, don't charge her. It's like, okay, so whenever anybody rear-ends my car, if they didn't mean to, I just don't charge it and I just take it on the chin and say, okay, cool, I guess I'll pay for the repair to my car. Like, no, intent and actual oh my gosh, I'm just blanking on the word, but whether they intend to do something or not, you can still pin them on that. They should still pay for it. But the next reply to that was, the response is harsh. What the heck is wrong with you? Why don't you invite people to come over and kill your animals as if it's so trivial? Get a grip. Okay, so people, like, are saying, like, the whole, like, you know, your response is harsh because I guess maybe they're just not an animal person. Like, the idea that a lot of my viewers and me myself were very into animals, dogs, pets, and cats and everything, but it's like, you know, I have friends that have parents and also friends from different generations in other countries where they do consume dogs and they do consume cats as a meal, and it's like, you know, they live in extreme poverty where, you know, it's either there's people in their village actually dying, actually having like organ failure, and you have the dog there, so it's like, you know, they choose themselves over the dog and they do it. It's like, over here we villainize them and like, oh my god, torch and pitchfork, you're a terrible person, you animal abuser or whatever. But it's like, if you come across a guy like this that comes over here and says like, hey man, that's a bit too far, like, why do you care that much about animals? We don't know exactly where he's from, you know. To us, what is it? You know, you can't hurt a dog or a cat, but then cheeseburgers, that's a-okay every single time. It's like, you know, in other places they would look at us and be like, oh my god, why would you eat a burger? And like, you know, like, oh yeah, you can, a bunny, that doesn't mean anything. So it's just like, just because they don't hold the same particular values and same upbringing as us doesn't mean that we can sit here and say, you're a psycho for not thinking that's okay, the bunny rabbit dying, you know, that's a terrible thing. It's like, yes, he may have a different impression of the situation than us, but, you know, we don't need to pile on him. It's like, different people are going to think different ways. But let's go ahead and read the next controversial reply, which is, your parents and girlfriend are antagonists, that is all. And then someone says, why? And they reply saying, I assume they mean for telling OP's overreacting and not to sue her because she meant well. And that's the idea, is just like, you know, they're not the antagonists for that. They're coming from a different perspective in the idea that they didn't like, you know, raise the bunnies from tiny little bun buns where they fit like in your palm of your hand to like these giant rabbits that, like, you know, can, I don't know, they fill up an entire, like, you know, magician hat or whatnot. But just the idea that it's like, you know, those are his little kids, those are his little, like, you know, his little, not his siblings, those are his babies, and they just died. So it's like, no, they just don't understand it. But okay, so the next top reply was something that had been crossed out. But okay, so we got a reply that had a lot of downvotes, and they're asking, we need more information. I always want to believe the best in people, like maybe she truly thought she was doing you a solid, and maybe she didn't know how harmful weed killer can be to animals. If those things are to be true, then this is just unfortunate, and you suing her would make you look like the antagonist here, and just aggravate the situation. But if she wasn't that ignorant, and you had to talk with her to confirm this, I think you're justified in seeking compensation for the vet bills. Does she have a history of doing things like this, or is this the first time? Suing someone is a lot of work, and then she'll still be your neighbor and have to live next to him. I'm not saying let her walk all over you, but I think this is the antagonist judgment move if you need more information. So I get where this person's coming from. They got a lot of downvotes, but it is true. Like this is coming from someone that experienced of bad neighbors where, hey, you could be right and you can be justified, but the idea of, you know, taking it to the courts, taking the police, figuring out the court date, compiling all the evidence, bringing all the vet bills and compiling that and going over there. If this person has a house, I've mentioned this before, if he has a house and he has a really good job and he has all these animals and dependents and everything, that he's probably, if it's in California, he's making well into six-figure range. So if he's making $100K, which is like $50 an hour, he'll have a situation where he's doing all the evidence gathering, the court date, carving up the time to get that. If he doesn't have a suit, got to buy a suit to go in court and fight him over there. And then what is that going to be, like 10 hours? So $500 in exchange for being right is sometimes not worth it. Like, it's not going to bring the pet back. You don't let them walk over you, like they mentioned right here, but just the idea sometimes that aggravates the situation more. Now you're right. Now you got your money back for your vet bills and this whole ordeal's there. But now you have the crappiest neighbor that just got even more crappy that's going to do a lot more things. And it's just like, people that are antagonists, like what I'm guessing the neighbor is going to be, where she's like, you need to get rid of those dandelions here. I'll kill the weeds myself and also spray your rabbits for good measure. That sort of thing. They're gonna find new ways to aggravate you and always cross and toe that line between, like, you know, legal and illegal as far as how they're gonna, like, you know, mess with you. It's like having a bad neighbor can make a good house into a crap house, and this person knows it. So the idea that they got downvotes is because everybody wants to torch and pitchfork this situation. Like, no, you have to take her to court, you have to do this. It's like sometimes the what is it? It's just not worth it. Just the idea where, you know, being an adult sometimes is being at a bar and some loudmouth idiot is running around like talking crap to everybody and he spills some beer on you and it's like, oh, if it's on your favorite shirt, and you're like, look, could fight this guy, but at the end of the day, it's like I can freaking dry my shoulder and get the beer off my shoes, waiting for the cops and seeing, like, you know, going to the hearing later on and, you know, having that on your record and possibly spending the next half an hour in handcuffs is like, that's not, like, you know what I mean? You just weigh out the options, and it's like, yeah, sometimes you can get hurt and you just don't need to seek vengeance because it's going to be a net negative for you. And like always, you know, I imagine this will be one of the more lively debates in the comment section, because people aren't going to be upset. People are going to be upset the way that I talk about, like, you know, the neighbor right here and how, you know, I can have a bold perspective on some situations, but still endorse the idea this guy's right and saying, okay, you know what, this is more trouble than it's worth. I'm going to walk away from this. I'm going to have a stern conversation with my neighbor, but then I'm going to walk away. No courts, no fine, no nothing. Just, hey, you should have done that. At least pay my vet bills, and maybe if I need to redo my lawn. Which I like the idea that I went through this saying, not the antagonist, sue them to, yeah, you're not the antagonist, but maybe it's more trouble than it's worth. So give me your feedback as to, like, you know, if this has changed your mind as of reading it, or if you think I'm an idiot for calling that person a loser. Earn yourself that Decoy coin over at DecoyNoise.com to kind of figure out if you'll be in that elite member of the koi pond, which I don't know what it's gonna be. But as always, if you made it this far in the video, I want to say thank you for sticking this out with me, listening to me kind of ramble, giving me feedback. I enjoyed that. Subscribe down below with the notifications on, because I'm hearing that if you're subscribed to me, sometimes you just don't see when I post videos unless you have the notifications on. Visit DecoyNoise.com to give me feedback or submit your own story for the podcast. If nothing else, put this on autoplay and watch the next Decoy Noise coming up next.